What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Armaret, and I wanted to bring to you a special little three-part series that I'm going to be working on. Coming this July in the comic book world is going to be what's called the Trinity Wars. Now, for those of you who may not know, the Trinity Wars is where the Justice League is going to face off against the Justice League of America, and then the Justice League Dark is also going to have some part in it. It's really, at this point, not quite yet defined. And the way they describe it is, we will see Earth's biggest heroes going head to head in an explosive arc that will defy the superhero genre. Now, this Trinity Wars is going to span 6 issues, and that's 6 issues over the 3. So at this point, I'm not sure if it's six in each of the 3 makes it 18, or just 6 and then 2, 2, and 2. But it is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be if you're a fan of any of those 3, it's going to be a must-buy for you. So I figured what I'd do is I'd take the time here and in each of these 3 parts, break down a little bit of maybe the history as well as the team members of each of the 3 teams. That way, going into the Trinity Wars, if maybe you've only ever read or heard of one of the series, you're going to have a nice base knowledge for what the other teams are going to bring to the table. So in this first issue, in this first video, I'm going to do the Justice League, and then in a few days, the Justice League of America is going to be up, and then finally, shortly after that, is going to be Justice League Dark. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've read Justice League and Justice League of America for many years. Justice League Dark is new to the New 52 and is also new to me, so I'm saving that one for last so that I can make sure I can really absorb all the information and all those characters to give you the most in-depth analysis that I possibly can. So we'll start off with a little bit of a background for the Justice League. So the Justice League is a superhero team that appears in comic books, mainly the DC. They first appeared in The Brave and the Bold, issue number 28, and this was in the 1960s. And the Justice League originally featured Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, so this is the Barry Allen Flash, Green Lantern, the Hal Jordan Green Lantern, and Aquaman, the Arthur Curry Aquaman, and the Martian Manhunter. And then the team roster kind of rotated throughout many of the years to include people such as the Green Arrow, Captain Marvel, Black Canary, the Atom, Hawkman, Elongated Man, Red Tomato, Firestorm, Zatanna, Hawkgirl, and Cyborg, as well as dozens of others. And the reason for this rotation was that they did not want to use um, the A-list superheroes in too many books. So back in the 1960s, in the Silver and Gold and Bronze Age and all those, they didn't have what you see nowadays, which is 3 or 4 different comic books with the same hero telling different stories in different timelines. So if you think about Batman, you have Batman, Batman Incorporated, and then you have Batman and Robin. I know there's 1 or 2 more that I'm also missing, but back then they didn't have that, so they kind of wanted to parse them out. So when you think of, okay, so now we're in the New 52, and you know, who makes up this new team in the New 52? So the new initial roster for the New 52's Justice League is Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Hal Jordan's Green Lantern, Aquaman, Barry Allen's Flash, and Cyborg. And then Firestorm and Element Woman were just also added, as well as the Atom. The Rhonda Pinita's Atom were just added in this week's most current release. So they're starting to get their team nice and rounded out. So we'll start off first with Superman. You know him, you love him. Born on Krypton, boasts a number of superhero powers. His only real weakness is kryptonite. And as some of you may know, there's multiple different types of kryptonite. Red, yellow, brown, green. But green is the one that really hurts him. Over the years, his source of powers has changed. It started off initially from his powers were just because he was Kryptonian. And now the new line is that his powers are derived from our sun. And therefore, if he's ever damaged by kryptonite, he goes to the sun to recharge and to recoup. His love interest throughout the old Smallvilles and growing up and then working at the Daily Planet was always Lois Lane. However, in the New 52, they kind of flipped it, and they've made Wonder Woman his love interest, which makes sense. It's someone who's just as strong and just as tough and just as indestructible as him. So, what does he bring to the table? He is, as part one of Team League. 'Cause I like to think of Superman and Batman sharing that leadership role, but he brings to the table flight, super strength, invulnerability to magical attacks, super speed, vision powers, super hearing, super intelligence, and super breath. So he is the cornerstone and the rock to this team, the team that kind of pulls them out of the gutter of the fires when need be. So then the next member, who I like to think of as the co-captain or the co-leader, is Batman. So, as many of you know, as he's Bruce Wayne, and having witnessed the murder of his parents as a child, he swore revenge on criminals on oath, tempered with greater ideal for justice. And the one thing that really kind of sets Batman apart is that his refusal to kill. He will never kill anybody, no matter how evil or how many people they've murdered, and this is highly evident in the Joker. And some people think that the reason why is, one, because of a strong moral code, but two, because if he kills all of his enemies, then he won't ever have that person to fight against, which is something that he almost needs to keep going. And unlike Superman, he is human. He really doesn't have, he has a multitude of weaknesses as any human would. But what he also has is he has, because he has the money, he's trained by Ra's al Ghul in the stealth and in the hand-to-hand combat. He has all the weapons and tools that he can use because he's a billionaire. And then on top of that, he also has his team to support him in Robin, Batgirl, Red Hood, and then Oracle, depending on whether or not Barbara Gordon is playing Batgirl. So he brings um, a big party to the table. Plus, on top of that, he's also known as the world's greatest detective. So he's keen intellect and ability to analyze any predicament is very helpful to the team. So then the next person on the team is, of course, Superman's love interest. This is Wonder Woman. So Wonder Woman was first published in 1986. Her depiction as a heroine figure for justice, love, peace, and sexual equality has led her to be as a feminist icon, because she was a strong, powerful woman. She was actually a Amazonian princess, and her name was Dianne of Themyscira, and she came back uh, from where the Amazon lives with the person who's now the leader of the Justice League of America, and we'll get to his character in another episode, and becomes Wonder Woman. She possesses an arsenal of weapons, including the Lasso of Truth, indestructible bracelets, and a tiara that she uses as a projectile. And then she also, depending on which story you're reading, has an invisible plane. And then in the latest issue of the Justice League, if you have not read it, Superman a long time ago had asked Batman to kind of start gathering everyone's weaknesses just in case. So he has a kryptonite ring in a box in case Superman ever goes rogue. Superman knows Batman's weakness in case anything ever happens. And then the one thing you find out is Wonder Woman has no weakness. If you read the Injustice issues, she pretty much takes out Ares. But the one weakness she does have is Superman. So that, I think, is going to play an integral part into Trinity Wars, because she will always stand by him, and he's the one person who can keep her reined in. Next member of the team is Green Lantern. Now, Green Lantern is kind of an interesting character in the Justice League, because since he is assigned a sector, and he is of the Green Lantern Corps, who's assigned sectors to go and protect, he's not always there to take part in a lot of the action sequences in a lot of the comics, because he's pulled elsewhere. Plus, he's also bound by the ring such that he can do no harm to people. So the background for Hal Jordan is he was a test pilot for the Air Force. He proved multiple times that he could overcome fear, and that's what the Green Lantern Corps is all about. It's about looking fear and having the willpower to overcome it. And I'm going to do a video later that actually breaks down each of the different colored rings in the Green Lantern series, what they mean, why people are attracted to them by them. And he received his ring from Armin Sur, and over the course of the timeline, he's known to be as the greatest Green Lantern of all time. Next is Aquaman. So there's been two different types of Aquamans. in the timeline that is the Justice League, and the New 52, the Aquaman that they use is the Arthur Curry one. So he's half human, the son of Tom Curry, and half Atlantean, and he actually finds himself coming back to Atlantis after some time apart to retake his throne as king, but at the same time he's pulled back to want to fight crime and to and to help save people. So he's constantly torn between the two, and as such, he kind of finds himself being alienated from both. But as the king of Atlantis, that is where his true calling is. His powers, of course, is the ability to breathe underwater, superhuman durability, superhuman strength, and then, of course, his most famous one is the ability to communicate with marine life, which he can summon from great distances. And then also, although this power is most often and most easily used on marine life, Aquaman at times has the ability to also communicate with marine life, for example, human beings. So he does have a variety of powers that are not just strictly limited uh, to the water, although depending on which version of Aquaman of the Justice League you read, he does need a suit from Batman to breathe on land for an extended period of time. The next member of the Justice League is by far the fastest, and that's the Flash, Barry Allen's Flash. Um, and his story to me, I always find kind of funny because when he started off, he was a scientist and he was described as slow and deliberate and late and frustrating. And then one night, lightning bolt breaks some chemicals which spill on him, which give him his super speed and reflexes and stamina. So of course, what are the Flash's powers? So he can move, think, and react with lightning speed. He has incredible endurance to also withstand this speed. In later versions of the Justice League, he can vibrate so fast that he can actually pass through walls. And then, as known, he runs counterclockwise fast enough he can travel through time. And then, here's the best part of the Flash story that kind of makes you scratch your head, is that depending on which version of the Flash you read, he himself actually creates himself. So in the process in the future of going back in time and moving so fast, he actually creates a ripple which sends the lightning strike down, which creates his own powers. So it's kind of like one of those weird kind of mind-bending loops. The next member of the Justice League is Cyborg. So Cyborg essentially was a normal person whose both of his parents worked for Star Labs, and they were working in experimental dimensional travel. And in one of the experiments, the experiment went wrong. The portal opened up, and this giant monster came out, killing his mom, severely injuring himself. And luckily, his dad was able to close the portal, get the monster out, and save his son's life by attaching cybernetic equipment to him, much like $10 Million Man. I don't know if you guys ever saw that show from the 70s. But with these powers, and it's really not powers, it's him that's part machine now. He has the ability of cybernetics. He has a high body resistance since the majority of his body is now armor. He has superhuman strength, speed, endurance, and durability. He has the ability to interface with communication. He can fly via powered boot jets. He has an integrated weapon system, kind of like Mega Man's, like the gun that shoots out of his hand. He has a sensor system, and then using what he calls the boom tube, he has the ability to transport from location to location. So he pretty much acts as the communication hub and the engineer for the Justice League. He kind of takes over the role that in the original Justice League, the Martian Manhunter, he used his telepathic abilities to keep everybody in touch. Since in this New 52, they do not have the Martian Manhunter to do that, they use Cyborg to run the command post and his communication skills to keep everybody running on the same page. Now, the last two members of the Justice League, and I say two because I'm not going to include the Atom, and you'll understand why in the next episode, is Firestorm and Element Woman. So we'll cover Firestorm first. So Firestorm is actually a unique character because he's actually not one, he's actually two people. And he's a combination of Ronnie and Jason. So both of them are classmates in high school, and through a what's called the God particle, and both of them battling, they actually fuse together, and became known as Fury or Firestorm. And Firestorm has the ability to rearrange the atomic and subatomic structure of inorganic matter, rearranging the the particles to create new objects from the metals. And then, unlike Green Lantern, when he makes a change, it's permanent. However, he can affect organic life, but he does so at great peril and turmoil to himself. And the interesting thing is, because there's two people in there, they have to work together, and later on, as the character evolves, you can actually kind of switch in between the two people. So one is the jock and one is the brainiac. So each one of them combined brings an incredibly intelligent person with the brawn. And the interesting thing is, they cannot manipulate any matter that they don't understand first. So they first have to understand it, then they can manipulate it. So it's an interesting character, and he's said to be one of the strongest characters in the Justice League because of his ability to change anything at the atomic and subatomic level. Then lastly is Element Woman. Element Woman can transform her body into any of the elements naturally found in the human body and shape them at her will. She can change her hair color using metals and can create silicate fates that fall off her after a while. She uses her face as an ashtray, which was a funny story, but this comes in kind of handy. So, to give you a good example, if, let's say, Firestorm finds himself in a position in which he needs to breathe, there's no oxygen, Element Woman can maybe transform her hair into oxygen, since oxygen is naturally found in the body, and can then give that oxygen to Firestorm. It's a nifty little trait to have. And she is new to the Justice League. In the last issue, she was brought in on her first day um, to kind of be introduced to the team when, of course, all hell breaks loose. So this is the first issue of the Justice League. Now, as some of you may not know, they actually their command center is in a traveling, almost like an orbital space station above the Earth, so they can monitor everything and distribute themselves out accordingly. And so that's the first one. Then in the next installment, I'm going to do Justice League of America, and the Justice League of America is essentially their reaction. How do I put this? It's America's reaction to how do they defend themselves from the Justice League, since the Justice League may not always be there. So it's going to be a real fascinating conversation, and I hope to see you guys there, and have a good day.